Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Soccer with Doug podcast. I want to thank you for following the site, and I hope that you'll consider becoming a paid subscriber. If you have already become a paid subscriber, thank you very much. If you want to do so, it's soccerwithdoug.substack.com/subscribe. Hi, I'm Doug Robertson. I grew up in Atlanta. I played soccer all over our wonderful city. You can follow me on social media on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Soccer with Doug. Today, we're going to talk about Atlanta United's 2-1 loss to New England on Wednesday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and its 2-1 win at Toronto on Saturday. Atlanta United is 2-7-1 this season. It has been shut out 5 times in 7 matches, but it is starting to show potential for scoring, which it did not do at the beginning of the year. It is 5 points out of a playoff spot. Atlanta United on Tuesday is going to go to Charlotte for a U.S. Open Cup match, and then it will host LA on Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. In this podcast, you're going to hear the match reports from those 2 games. You're going to hear from Gerardo Martino and Alexei Maranchuk, who scored the first goal at Toronto. Tristan Muyumba scored the winner. I'm not going to play audio from the New England match just because the Toronto match is the most recent and it makes the most sense. I'm also going to answer your questions. Again, you can follow me on all the social media channels at Soccer with Doug. You can subscribe by going to soccerwithdoug.substack.com/subscribe.
In the second half, we were able to be more concrete in front of goal, and with the exception of one stance in the game from in between the goals.
Here he is talking about his emotions and the emotions he hoped the supporters felt watching that second goal scored by Yumba.
In the second half, we were able to be more concrete in front of goal, and with the exception of one stance in the game from in between the goals.
As I said, Matt Edwards had a great game. I think Jason said it was the best game he's ever seen him. Jason Longshore said it's the best game he's ever seen him play. I can't say that. I don't know. But here's Tata talking about Edwards and the other homegrowns and the roles they are playing. Luke Brennan also started, I should say that, and put in a solid performance.
Matt is within the group of young players who have come up through the club who we're very excited about. So whenever we need him, we know that he's able to come in, and he's always ready and does what we're asking him to do. So we're very excited about not only him but the other young players who Tata mentioned, Luke, Cooper, Jay, Will, and this group of young players.
Martino thought Moranchuk performed well for the second consecutive game as captain. Here he is talking about Moranchuk and Almiron.
This is what we expect from our best players, and so he had a good performance today. I also thought, despite the loss, he had a very good performance in the last match. But yeah, this is what we expect, not only from Miguel and Alexi. That we want them to be the leaders, soccer speaking, on the field, and so this is what we expect of those two.
Tata told me on Friday, I hate saying that, I sound like a TV person. I asked Tata on Friday in the press conference about if he knew his best 11 yet, and he said no, he's getting closer. You put these two games back to back, and it looks to me like he's getting closer to figuring out what he wants to do with the kind of mismatch of skill sets on this team. So I wanted to confirm if that was true. Here's his answer.
I agree with that sentiment. I think we're trying to get closer to understanding that and the connections between the players that we want, without forgetting the performances of some of the players who have contributed, who have played less minutes. So like Luke's performance and Cayman's performance today while they were on the field. So that we're in search of finding that, as you say, that best connection that we want. And now there's guys who are also contributing who've played less minutes.
When I said I sound like a TV person, I was making fun of the game announcers. Whenever you hear them talk about at a college game, we caught up with Coach So-and-so, and he told us this. What they also failed to say is the coaches are contractually obligated to talk to the TV people. It usually happens on a Friday. The coaches don't like that because it's like one of the few times they get some time off, but they have to come in and do it anyway. And a lot of the questions they're being asked are questions that they've already been asked by journalists during the week. Anyway, it's just kind of a pet peeve of mine. It would be nice if people would include the context of that when they say it. Here's on to Moranchuk talking about the win being deserved.
I don't want to talk about the band because obviously Miguel is out, and it gives me more responsibility, of course, but nothing than that. And yeah, today we talk about even though it was a great goals, but we talk about team and how the team perform and attitude of the players, not only staff and everybody, and it was well deserved.
Here's Alexi talking about the build-up of that second goal.
Yes, it came from the short passes, movement. That's what we wanted, and that's what we get. So we want 8 to go inside the box and be dangerous, which Coops goes there and 3 goes there. So that's why it's worked out.
If you didn't get a chance to watch the game yesterday, please go and do so. It was a fantastic goal. It won't be a goal of the week. Moranchuk's is not going to be a goal of the week either, though it was a nice goal, I don't think. But still, watch that goal. It might give you some good feel goods, might remind you a little bit of 17 and 18. Here's Moranchuk on the improved play the team has shown defensively.
It's really important for the from my perspective of attacker players, because if I see my defenders doing his job really well and fighting for winning the balls, it gives me energy, it gives me things. I want to help him, I want to help the team, so they are really important and they did a great job today. I'm happy for them.
And then I asked Moranchuk about what happened on his goal. There was some talk. He did kind of a weird dance after the goal. I wanted to know what his teammates were telling him.
There was a lot of going on. I mean, because first of all, the Trees and Juan asked me, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Of course I'm sure." And then when I scored, Luki ran to me and he said, "I knew you're gonna score." Then Coop told to Matt that Alex is gonna score, so everybody knew that I'm gonna score, and yeah, but they say afterwards. So yeah.
On to the mailbag. Nick says, my friend and I discussed if I was betting on Polymarket, well, predicting, not betting. Here's what I would guess would be the exit for many. Saba sold for $3.5 million in the next window. Makes too much sense for Lati Lot. Sold for $12 million. Moranchuk sold for $7 million. Almiron buyout or transfer. It feels like there is some creative mutual separation. Million Bob buyout. There's a couple of things about this. Saba and Muyumba's contract end at the end of the calendar year. No one's going to pay for them. Now, Atlanta United might be able to trade them within the league if they want to. Muyumba's become a starter at the 6, so he's not going unless Atlanta United brings in another 6. So neither of those guys are going to be bought. I could see Atlanta United unloading Latte Lot for maybe they could get $5 to $10 million from some championship team for him. Moranchuk, I don't think the team is going to sell. It seems like Tata has come around to Moranchuk being the focal point of this team rather than Almiron. Nobody's buying Almiron. He's too old and he makes too much money. I don't think he's going to retire either. Tata likes him. I'm going to be curious when Almiron comes back what Tata is going to do with him, because it's clear Almiron can't play on the right wing. That was shown last year. He's not a good enough crosser to play on the left wing. Moranchuk is a better option in the center of the pitch. I don't know what they're going to do with Almiron. Latte Lot, it feels like Tata has just kind of come to the realization he doesn't know what to do with Latte Lot. I think it's probably better for the player and the team if he moves on, but Atlanta United's got to find somebody who wants him. If you saw my story on Friday, I asked Arthur Blank if the team has the green light to do whatever they need to do financially regarding buying out any of the DPs. He said finances aren't a problem. It costs what it costs, basically. Again, another good reason to subscribe to Soccer with Doug right there. soccerwithdoug.substack.com/subscribe. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens this summer. Chance says, actually, talking about Polymarket for a second, I'm actually writing a story for the Atlanta Business Chronicle about World Cup betting or predicting. If you are a Polymarket user and plan on doing some World Cup predicting, email me at soccerwithdoug@gmail.com. If you don't want to use your real name, I can figure out a way around that, but I'd love to hear from you. Chance says, this is after the New England game, the curse of the great Bambino for the Boston Red Sox, the curse of the Billy Goat for the Cubs, the curse of Bobby Lane for the Detroit Lions, and the hypothetical decade or two down the line, what's Atlanta United's curse looking back after that 2018-19 era? The Heinze curse, maybe? I don't know. I don't want to pin it on one particular person or one particular thing. I don't know. That's the COVID curse, maybe. That seems to have affected the team more than anything. The Quentin Westberg curse. stopping Joseph Martinez's penalty kick in the Eastern Conference semifinals? I don't know. That's a good question to throw out to all of y'all. Email me at soccerwithddoug@gmail.com or on one of my social media handles and give me what you think the curse should be called if Atlanta United continues to be trophyless. Adam, who sent this after the New England game, says it's so dang depressing. He didn't use dang. Even when the team has all sorts of momentum and excuses to believe, they still retreat mentally when faced with any stress. Coffee sip. Once again, they surrender a second goal in quick succession after a first one. The second one was also just a byproduct of sheer laziness. Atlanta was way too profligate. What a great word. Thank you. In front of goal while allowing their opponent fewer chances, but chances of much higher quality. I'd wager that since the start of 2024, the Stripes have yielded one of the highest ratio of goals allowed per shots on target. I'll have to look that up. Is it safe to assume Atlanta's future DPs will come at much cheaper rates so as not to potentially handcuff the side once more to such deadweight contracts? I think the market dictates that. I have no idea. Or at the very least, never try to put two large contracts at the same time. Well, they have to be large contracts and they're not DPs. I understand your sentiment, but I'm not sure it's practical. After this season, can we please get MLS to better schedule seasons so that teams don't face so many home dates in a short span? Well, this is a lot of World Cup related things because they've got to get the stadium ready for the World Cup and then they have to get it ready again for Atlanta United. That is why there's so many home games right now because they have fewer dates in which they can host home games. So I don't think you're going to have to worry about that for next time. Also, going back to Polymarket for a second, if you haven't watched John Oliver's show on HBO, he tackled Polymarket, I think, last week. It's a really interesting read. I don't know how this and Kalshi are legal. And if they are legal, I don't know why Georgia hasn't moved to block access to these apps or just given in and allowed for sports betting to try to get the revenue from these type of apps. I understand the moral arguments against sports betting. I do. And I can't say I disagree with them. I don't want to see people suffer. I think gambling is an addiction, same as greed. It's the same as all the recognized addictions. So I don't want to see access to that get easier, but at the same time, it is revenue that the state could perhaps put to better use. Also, one more note about the podcast. I hope you saw my podcast a few weeks ago with Craig Richards, the owner of Lila and co-owner of Lila and co-owner of Elise Restaurants. Big soccer guy. I'm looking for more people who have a passion for soccer but who don't work in the soccer industry to be guests on the podcast. If you are interested, please email me at soccerwithddoug@gmail.com. I would love to come and talk to you about why you love soccer and the similarities between soccer and what you do for a living. Our last question comes from Alan, who says, who is in my Atlanta United starting 11? So it's funny because after Tata said this the other day, I went around the room and asked the other three people who were there, who was in their starting 11 for Atlanta United? And they all, well, two of the three included Almiron. I wouldn't include Almiron in my starting 11 anymore. My starting 11 would be right now, Edwards on the right, probably Gregerson and Mihai in the middle, Amador on the left. I would go with a 4-2-3-1. I know that Tata's not going to do that. But my two would be Jay Fortune and Galarza. And just to take advantage of their athleticism and ability to get up and down the field, they would kind of be 6/8s. Alexi as the attacking midfielder. Probably Fafa and Saba on the wings. And Tagashi, if he's healthy, as the striker. That would be my starting 11. All right, that wraps up this podcast, this Soccer with Doug podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Again, you can follow me on all the social media channels at Soccer with Doug. If you are a subscriber, the biggest favor you can do for me, other than reading the stories, is to please share this Substack, share my social media handles on your social media handles, and encourage people to subscribe. That is the biggest favor you can do for me. I would very much appreciate it. As always, hug your loved ones, communicate with your loved ones. Y'all take care, and let's take care of each other. And to hear the rest of this podcast, go to soccerwithdoug.substack.com/subscribe.